This film is about how lockdown has shown us that we can get by with much less stuff, doing much less shopping than we used to. Not only might this make us happier, it might help us to tackle one of our greatest challenges, the climate emergency. We asked you to send in your lessons from lockdown, and this is what we discovered. People found freedom in buying less stuff and pleasure in more making and doing.
Our major lesson, takeaway from this interminable, frustrating and yet instructive lockdown has been really about food. We've been in more or less total lockdown, so actually doing a lot of stuff outside the home, not possible. But we have learned or relearned the lesson of eating what's there. And this was something my grandparents did. If it was there, you cooked with it. You made something, whatever it might be. And that's been so revelatory for us that we have used the food we have. We've used the seasonal food. We've used the leftovers. We've used 2 potatoes and a leek. And it's all been nutritious, delicious, possible.
Local shops mattered again. More cooked their own food and benefited.
Because of the decreasing mainland visitor, many pharmacy and jewelry shops are closed. Those shops were everywhere and occupied the street before because of the high demanding of mainland customers. So now, the shops have become more diverse in the street again.
It does make life simpler. And when we don't have to go out or when we have to really think about what we need at home, we do with less, and that can't be a bad thing. If we can live on less, if we can buy less stuff that we might chuck away, and especially when it comes to food. Until last week, Monday, I hadn't been to a supermarket since before the lockdown. I was quite happy with that. I'm lucky that I've got a few shops at the end of the road. I use them. I don't know, has this really taught us that we can do with less? Has this really taught us that we don't need to use our cars so much? That we don't need to use public transport so much? That it is just making our life simpler?
People got creative. Homemade entertainment replaced events and shopping.
One lesson I learnt from lockdown was how little we need to go out and buy new things. My housemates and I decided to do a lot of mending around the house while we were in isolation. So for me, that was a lot of fashion items, jackets, t-shirts. I did some normal style mending and also some visible mending, like fun embroidery to add some little design details.
I wondered obviously how it would all work out being locked down with 2 teenagers, but in fact they were a joy and they came up with all kinds of creative ideas and were much more resilient than I could hope for, really. I think the best thing of all was to come down one morning and find them sitting at the table with 2 sewing machines, one borrowed from a next door neighbour, upcycling all their clothes.
We also fixed furniture around the house, chairs, the TV table, that kind of thing. And it just made us realise that we didn't need to go out and buy new things if we could fix what we already own. And also by adding personal touches and little design details, it made us want to maintain these items longer so that, again, we didn't have to buy anything new.
I don't think we ever really did this before lockdown, did we, George? So it's quite cool because he's so much better at catching now, aren't you?
Many people found that behavioural changes improve their health and even reduce their debt.
Before lockdown, I was cycling every day to work and I'd get there very energised and awake. During lockdown, in theory, I could just roll out of bed to work, which I've done a couple of times, but I'm not very awake and not ready to start the day. So I have a routine of getting up and going cycling, making some coffee, talking to some friends, and having that space and calm which energises me for my day. And I never really appreciated that, or that I needed that before lockdown. The other thing is valuing everything that I have or did have, having had everything taken away. It's been really highlighting to see what I miss and what I don't miss. Like the cup of coffee on my way to work from Pret or somewhere, like really is not necessary and I don't miss it at all. But going out to see friends and being able to get out of London or go on holiday somewhere, I really do miss.
I was acutely aware the whole time, obviously, of our being so lucky, being in the middle of nowhere, having this space which so many people didn't have, and living such very different way of life not being restricted and tied inside like so many people. So I think the divides across the nation between people were more extreme, became even more aware of those differences and our distance from the front line and lack of involvement in a day-to-day way of what was going on in the rest of the country.
People who live in tower blocks, live in council estates, and we don't have access to green open spaces, and that in itself becomes a luxury. It has an impact on your mental health. So I think the lockdown helped us rethink lots of things about the ways that we were living prior to that, and do we want to continue?
What about school? Are you missing it?
Yeah, I am missing it, but I feel like being at home as well.
What do you like about being at home?
I can watch more movies.
Yeah, anything else?
And I can be with you and Mum.
We have much more time than we thought we did before, and that's been a revelation. It's another conversation. What do we do with that time? But to find that extra 6 hours down the back of the sofa has been wonderful.
Thanks for watching our lessons from lockdown, all about living with less stuff. If this resonated with you, please consider clicking the link and joining our community. At Rapid Transition Alliance, we're building for a better, fairer and greener world. There's still so much to do, and every one of us counts.